Hello everyone. Today we are watching every crazy drug you never heard of. I heard about a lot of them. I mean, I am working in a hospital, so I heard for a lot of medications. So yeah, and I heard for a lot of uh crazy drugs which aren't used as medications. So let's see, have I heard of them?
The craziest drugs that you have never heard of. At this point in YouTube history, I think everybody has watched at least one video about crazy or obscure drugs. And while these videos are
Hmm.
interesting, usually if you've seen one, you've seen them all. And typically the entries
If you've seen one, you have seen them all. I mean, yeah.
are rather surface level. Fortunately, this video is different. We're going to cover drugs that are so random and so unknown by the general public that even super niche internet communities don't know about them.
What? Let me guess. Datura, uh, Flaka, mm, Crocodile. I don't know what else is there that's not so known.
Oh yeah, and this list gets crazier as it goes on. Let's begin. Salvinorin B methoxymethyl ether. If you thought of salvia when you heard salvinorin in the jumbled mess of scientific smart people speak, then you would be correct. But this isn't just regular salvia.
I didn't hear of this one.
This video is about drugs you've never heard of, and this stuff is way crazier than regular salvia. In fact, I think a good name for this would be super salvia. But in case you're unfamiliar with
You don't want even normal salvia. I don't know who is looking for super salvia. Maybe some lunatic. Someone who has already gone the Lulu.
regular salvia, let me recap quickly. You see, with regular salvia, from every trip report that I've seen, using salvia is almost a guaranteed miserable time. And even at that, the bar is so low for salvia that even a good experience is pretty much just not being as traumatized as the majority of people that take it. But
Yeah.
Salvinorin B isn't regular salvia. This drug is salvia's crackhead cousin. Honestly, for all intents and purposes, this drug is probably one of the most cursed compounds ever made for a variety of reasons. For starters, the National Library of Medicine states that this chemical is among the most potent and selective kappa opioids known. And in this
Okay. I didn't know salvia was an opioid antagonist.
case, stronger is not always better. To this day,
Uh, well, yeah. If you have medication that causes nausea, you don't want one that causes even more nausea.
there has only ever been one reliable Salvinorin B trip report, and that's simply because even some of the most seasoned psychonauts don't want to touch it. Likely
I mean, why would you want?
because it's a cursed compound with a ridiculously long half-life. According to sources, Salvinorin B is 5 times more potent than Salvinorin A and lasts for a duration of 2 to 3 hours.
That doesn't sound so bad. I mean, most school days last longer, and yeah. The school isn't the best either.
Which brings using this drug into the realm of sheer insanity. If you were crazy enough to want to try this drug, you would need to heavily mentally prepare yourself beforehand, because breakthrough drugs like salvia and DMT are known to cause time dilation, which means that your trip could feel longer than it actually is in real life. Time
Oh, yeah, I know that side effect. If you have ADHD and have a job, you most likely feel it every day. So, like, if you have 8 hour shift, first 4 hours feel okay, then another four feel like 10 hours. So your actual shift is around 14 hours long for you.
dilation is one of those things that's commonly discussed online, yet nobody really knows how or why it happens. In a post I found on the DM
Uh, well, actually, I think it's a neurochemical imbalance. Like, if you have too low of noradrenaline and dopamine, which are used for attention, you don't have any attention, so nothing grabs your focus, so time seems to go really slow because you can't focus on anything and everything seems boring. So your perception of everything is boring, so it lasts very long.
DMT forum, a user states, I felt like I lived an entirely different life in the DMT world. It felt like 10 years or so. I even had a family. And if that's
Um, Interesting. I can neither confirm or deny that
That's
claim.
not crazy enough. Another user commented on this post saying, "This happened to me on Salvia, and I had absolutely no awareness of this life. I lived a whole lifetime in another life, and then zap, I'm in my bedroom. It was unsettling to me." And another user discussing
Okay.
his trip wrote, "What feels like an eternity only lasted 15 minutes."
Um. 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 uh, if you take any of these, I hope you have a good psychologist.
Keep in mind, this is just regular salvia, which only lasts 5 to 20 minutes. Considering Salvinorin B is 5 times more potent and lasts about 15 times longer,
Oh. Well, you will see whole civilizations fall and rise again.
it's no wonder why so few even dare to try it. So, what happened to the person that did take this compound? Well, for that, we actually need to look at the research paper. Yeah, a research paper. The doctors here
Okay.
had the psychonaut in the study measure his dose in micrograms, which is extremely tiny. An
Yeah, in normal comparison, it is a very small dosage, but when you consider LSD, which is mostly taken in 100 micrograms, that's normal for psychonautic chemicals.
average dose of regular salvia is measured in milligrams, which is obviously much more. The psychonaut in this
Hmm?
study, which is basically just a fancy name for someone who likes psychedelics, said the
Yeah. Okay.
following about his experience with Salvinorin B. "My head was observed to retract, and my face was frozen in a frighteningly blank expression as if I were having a stroke. My hands adopted a strange pose and waved around very slowly, alternately creepily awkward and graceful. I remember
Okay. Um, this can happen when you are very sleep deprived. Your hands can like freeze and can feel very hard to move, like you have weights on them, and also your eyes literally have 10 FPS. So every time you move your hand, it has after frames. So I think it's kind of like that by this description. So it messes you up very badly.
none of this. Then, when talking about actually breaking through on the chemical, which basically means losing track of your current reality and entering hyperspace, they wrote, "I wasn't actually perceiving any objects in my environment. It was my mind that I was perceiving as a manifestation of the movement of a 5-dimensional object through
Uh, Okay.
a 4-dimensional membrane."
Um, a guy. We don't either have 4 dimensions or 5 dimensions. We have three of them. It's the height. Uh, how is it going? You have like going forward, sideways, and up or down. You can't go into the fourth dimension.
Whatever that means. Considering this was such a minuscule dose, I can't imagine the trip report someone might come back with if they took a full send level dose. Luckily for you guys, there is actually one other trip report on the entire internet. Although
On Reddit, I
it
guess.
isn't reliable as an actual research paper. This trip report is simply titled, "I cannot comprehend what happened," and it's actually written by a career chemist who synthesized the compound himself, and upon taking it was transported into an entirely different life in the 1950s. This is his quote on the experience. "I fell through my floor into an endless array of eerie sounds. I eventually reached the bottom and felt my body hit the ground. A creature walked towards me and grabbed me by the neck and said, 'in a disturbing voice. Then he threw me up and I landed. I stood up and
Um, okay. I think this is a time where your trip sitter would call an ambulance.
realized that I was in the 1950s. The trip went from impossible events to me simply existing in a different time. I walked around on this street and found a newspaper on the ground. I could read each and every article, and on the top it read August 6th, 1953. I didn't know that it wasn't real. It was all I knew. I could remember my life, but it wasn't me. It was the life of a person that I was in 1953. I could remember
Hmm.
my childhood, school years, first job, everything. As potentially cool as it may seem to almost time travel, this one part of this one story doesn't make this compound seem any less terrifying. 4-CMA. Like
Or CMA. Nope, never heard of it.
many of the obscure chemicals on this list, finding information on 4-CMA is not easy. That's because 4-CMA is a research chemical. If you don't know what research chemicals are, they're basically synthetic chemicals that were Frankensteined in a lab as part of a research project in an attempt to either improve on an existing chemical or to create an
Mhm.
entirely new drug.
Yeah, yeah, that's the definition.
Basically, research chemicals are the result of scientists crafting random stuff like they're brewing potions in Minecraft. The thing
Yeah, it is, and oftentimes they do work, but don't get approved by the FDA, even if they work.
is most of these chemicals don't make the cut, typically because they either have terrible side effects or they aren't useful medically, or they just
Hmm.
lost funding on the research. If the established drugs that most people know about are the tip of the iceberg, then research chemicals pretty much cover the rest of the iceberg all the way to the bottom. 4-CMA is a research chemical that was originally synthesized in the 1960s, as it was supposed to be a stimulant that behaved similarly to an amphetamine. Despite what scientists
Hmm.
expected, however, 4-CMA had a much more antidepressant effect than stimulant effect in test subjects. But because
So why isn't it used as an antidepressant?
it was mildly pleasant to use, drug dealers actually pressed this into their own pills to evade
Hmm.
authorities. According to sources, 4-CMA was first identified at the Tomorrowland Festival in 2015, where a tablet was found in the possession of a drug dealer. Then it seemed to have disappeared, while a study conducted in 2019 reported detection of 4-CMA in pills once again. Now you might be
Well, you can't stop chemist which knows how to make it.
curious, why is the slightly pleasant antidepressant on this list? Well, it turns out that this drug is highly neurotoxic to its users. In studies done
Oh,
with rats, it was found to permanently reduce serotonin, and in further studies done on it, it was also found that, quote, administration of 4-CMA caused a prolonged reduction in the levels of serotonin in the brain 1 month after injecting a single dose of the drug. In
so it makes you ultra depressed after taking
In
it.
other words, it physically kills your serotonin receptors permanently. Now, to make things worse, there are still vendors that are knowingly selling this toxic chemical with no regard for the general public. This
Okay, that's very bad.
is bad because these drugs can easily end up in a wide variety of recreational pressed pills that are sold on the black market. In regards to this, in the Research Chemicals subreddit, one user wrote, "Nice. A substance that could fry your brain like only a lifetime of MDMA use could in one sitting," which I feel is
Yeah,
pretty
accurate.
accurate. And it's even been reported that abusing this chemical could leave you with, quote, an irreversible depression that would be like an MDMA come down every day for the rest of your life.
I mean, if you literally fry every serotonin, a lot of serotonin receptors in your brain, which are responsible for the depression and well-being. That's why you get serotonin uh, reuptake inhibitors when you are depressed, or SSRIs. Then, I mean, it would make sense that if you don't have that many serotonin receptors that work anymore, you would be depressed.
Although it's been speculating that reaching this state would require multiple large doses over a long period of time, if you don't want to take the chance at permanently damaging your serotonin neurons, I would strongly recommend staying away from this drug. I almost want to call 4
Yeah, I'm not really wanting to try it or even think about it.
CMA super MDMA, but it's really not the case. It's honestly just the worst of both worlds. The upside of MDMA
Hmm.
is completely subdued in 4-CMA, and the downside of MDMA is amplified to such an extreme degree there is absolutely no value in the trade-off. Pyros. No, not the TF2 pyro. Pyros is an abbreviated word for the class of drugs known as pyrrolidinopherones.
I haven't heard of that one either.
And they're pretty much crack on crack. If you remember the bath salts epidemic from about a decade ago,
Uh, Crack on crack? I guess it's a super crack.
well, pyros are to blame. They're pretty well known in the fringe drug community as being the most addictive class of chemicals on Earth. And when I say most
Hmm.
addictive, I'm talking about 20 times more addictive than crack. These
Oh, that's real bad.
drugs are absolutely insane, and they don't even hold a candle to the mainstream drugs known for their addictiveness. For example, with commonly known drugs, most people actively decide to stop using it before their supply runs out. This is
Okay.
definitely not the case with this stuff. Barely honestly just the worst of both worlds. The
What?
upside of MDMA is completely remember the bath salts epidemic from about a decade
Okay,
ago?
I don't know why
Well,
that happened.
pyros are to blame. They're pretty well known in the fringe drug community as being the most addictive
Yeah.
class of chemicals on Earth. And when I say most addictive, I'm talking about 20 times more addictive than crack. These drugs
Yeah, we covered that already.
Are absolutely insane, and they don't even hold a candle to the mainstream drugs known for their addictiveness. For example, with commonly known drugs, most people actively decide to stop using it before their supply runs out. This
Yeah, yeah, that's accurate.
is definitely not the case with this stuff. Barely anyone in recorded history has started using a supply of pyros and just stopped halfway through out of sheer willpower. In
Hmm. Okay.
most stories on the internet, people who start a stash of pyros only end their days-long bender because they became full-blown psychotic and ended up in a psych ward, or if
Okay. Uh, that's not a good
they're
time.
lucky, started seeing shadow people early on and got scared enough to flush the rest of their supply down the toilet. But this
I mean, so there is some people who did it on their free will. Maybe it was forced by shadow people, but it was their free will not to see those people anymore.
stuff is so addictive that I'm convinced somebody has flushed their stash down the toilet and then immediately gone sewer diving
Okay,
afterwards on a
okay.
quest to find
That's an exaggeration.
things precious like Gollum in Lord of the Rings. Because of this, even the most seasoned drug users won't take this stuff because the compulsion to take more is practically impossible to overcome. In hindsight,
I mean, there are things you don't even try taking, like heroin, fentanyl, I guess this thing, or what was before this? I
it's no
forgot.
wonder we had a bath salts zombie epidemic. Just to clarify, bath salts are literally just pyros. Imagine you're trying to quit a chemical that's 50 times more addictive than crack, and every time you make a stop at the gas station for your nightly Twinkies, a scraggly old dude in the back who smells like salami is tempting you to buy it for a couple bucks. The
Um, um, no, thank you.
thing about the bath salts epidemic was that whenever authorities finally
Or buy it so he leaves you alone, and after you buy it, just throw it away somewhere in the bush, or I don't know, throw it in the sewer or something, throw it in the toilet. Just don't take it.
got around to outlawing the latest chemical, the drug lords that sold them would just hire some armchair chemist on the internet to look for slightly different chemicals on the dark web that kinda look the same. Keep in mind, they wouldn't
Hmm.
even know what the side effects would be. So basically, they were pretty much just selling random research chemicals to homeless people as test subjects. Because of this,
Um, that's very unethical, and I don't feel comfortable about
a
that.
lot of people got caught up in bath salts addiction around 2012 because they had no idea how addictive they would be. But that's not even it. The most diabolical aspect of pyros is that they make you extremely horny. I'm not
Okay, that's that's unwanted side effect.
not joking. Like a 64-hour edge session with no break or sleep until you literally pass out from exhaustion or get
Um, um, okay.
submitted to urgent care. They say that meth can turn you into a gooning degenerate, but this stuff is like meth times 5. To make matters even worse, somewhere along the way, armchair chemists on the internet somehow figured to conveniently turn this compound into vape juice, which pretty much makes this
Bruh, bruh, that's super evil. That's like that's what you put on your resume if you want Satan to hire you.
invention the world's worst jewel. So the next time your mom gets mad at you for your vaping addiction, feel free to remind her that there's some 45-year-old dude with scraggly hair in his basement vaping super crack and jorking it for 10 days straight. The amount of
Uh, don't tell that to your parents.
gooning behavior pyros cause would literally make your average Discord moderator look like a Buddhist monk. Long story
Um, I mean, MDMA isn't any better, but it lasts only 10 hours and it doesn't make you that horny.
short, outside of their extremely addictive qualities, these drugs are well known for turning you into a D1 gooner. Like, legitimately, the Michael Jordan of gooning. From what I've read, this drug easily makes you the biggest degenerate in the world. Trust me when I say, pyros are one diabolical class of drugs. 5-MeO DMT.
Okay, I heard about that one.
5-MeO DMT is basically DMT's mysterious grandfather. If you think
Yeah.
the sorcerers we talked about in the medieval video were mysterious, you'll be even more intrigued by this chemical compound. This chemical is sometimes nicknamed the God molecule, and surprisingly, unlike other chemicals on this list, this substance is actually naturally occurring. But this isn't found in a mushroom or
It's found in a plant or bark, I'm not sure.
tree bark like normal drugs.
No, okay.
5-MeO DMT is naturally occurring in toad venom of all
Okay, I was wrong. Uh, yeah, I forgot about this one. But yeah, it's derived from frog venom, I guess.
I mean, talk about hardcore. Unlike the more forgiving and consistently spiritual trip brought on by regular DMT, whether or not 5-MeO DMT is going to be a glowing spiritual experience or an existential crisis was basically a coin flip. And
I mean, it's with every psychonaut drug. Like, if you take LSD, you also do a coin flip. MDMA is often also a coin flip. So psilocybin also a coin flip. So I mean, it counts for every of them.
that's a problem, because if you choose to inhale this stuff, it is reported that this trip could last up to 2 hours, which
Mm, mm, okay.
is 8 times longer than regular DMT's duration of roughly 15 minutes.
Okay, then I mean, if you experience time dilation, I would rather choose DMT and not 5-MeO DMT.
And unlike most psychedelics, in which people usually report pleasant experiences when they use the drug with reverence and respect, 5-MeO DMT doesn't care how nicely you treat it. And that
Okay, so it's like a toxic girlfriend.
sucks, because if you have a bad time, you could have a very bad time for up to 2 hours.
You think 2 hours is bad? Oh, you haven't heard of 12 plus hour LSD trips. That's when you take 300 micrograms or more and then get so paranoid that you, yeah, go psycho. And that lasts up to 12 hours until you are down, calm down. And you can't physically sleep on it for about 20 hours. So that's what I call a bad time.
Additionally, in my armchair psychologist opinion, I'd wager that a bad trip on 5-MeO DMT is at least 10 times worse than a bad trip on regular DMT. To prove this point, I'm calling upon a popular website known to host trip reports. On this website, there's a category for bad trips. For context, with regular DMT, some titles of bad trip reports include First Breakthrough, Ego Loss and Bad Trip, Accelerating the Evil and Ego Death, A Cautionary Tale, Unprepared Liftoff into the Worst Case Scenario,
Okay.
and Too Much for a First Time, which
That's a sentence you never want to hear.
to be honest, pretty much sounds like they either took too much or experienced ego death, which is kind of a normie experience with psychedelics. Now, on the other hand,
Yeah, a lot of users take it just to experience it.
here are the titles for bad trip reports on 5-MeO DMT. Existential horror, pure horror, facing psychedelic terror, unimaginable depths of terror,
Okay. I would need the definition of terror.
and I ended up praying to Jesus Christ. Yeah,
Uh, I mean, uh, people who are not on anything also pray to Jesus Christ every day. So that's the most normal thing in those reports.
yeah, it's not a super fun way to spend your Sunday afternoon. Honestly, as a word of caution, if you're prone to existential anxiety, I would shy away from reading any bad trip reports altogether. Now,
Hmm, hmm. I know what next video is about.
it seems like a common theme in these reports that people actually think that they're about to die or actually dying while on the drug. Now, I don't know about you, but taking a
Yeah, I mean that side effect of any drug if you take a heroic dose of it. Heroic meaning very high.
drug that makes me believe I'm actually dead, and now my only friends are Casper the Ghost, the Grim Reaper, and Harambe, totally sounds like a blast. Not.
Um, Not really.
One reason for these reoccurring death themes in trips might be that 5-MeO DMT is one of the only psychedelics that has the actual capability to kill you. You see, usually psychedelics can't kill you unless you do something really dumb under the influence. 5-MeO
Yeah, psychedelics usually can't kill you on their own.
DMT is different though, because unlike most psychedelics, this drug has caused death in at least 2 cases, with the 3 major causes being, quote, suffocation after vomiting, lung shutting down, and cardiac arrest.
Okay. Yeah, those are usually subjects when you're talking about drug overdoses.
One interesting trip report I found about 5-MeO DMT wrote, I cannot emphasize enough how insanely weird, alien, and utterly cosmic this felt. Like I'd broken some type of rule and I'd entered an entirely different universe of some type.
Yeah, I mean LSD also can I feel like it isn't really unique for that drug.
If you ask me, 5-MeO-DMT is nothing to mess with. At all. Duster. I know what you might be thinking. What on earth do you mean by duster? The nickname your elementary school bully gave you in 4th grade? A brush
Okay.
for dusting furniture? An American indie rock band from San Jose, California that was formed in 1996? Okay,
Uh, that's a bit too specific.
nobody was thinking that one. No, I mean air duster. Air duster is the one drug that I can't state this clearly enough, you never want to use. And the reason is way more insidious than you may think. Duster kills your brain cells. By the way, air duster is not just compressed air in a
Okay.
can. The reason air duster is actually considered a drug is because it's mostly a refrigerant, not air. And because this gas is heavier than air, when most people are using it, their voice
Okay, you get less oxygen, so your brain cells are starved of oxygen and start dying off.
becomes very deep
And my voice gets really low.
and sounds like a monster. Basically, when you inhale, the chemical replaces all of the oxygen in your lungs and removes carbon dioxide in the same way that regular air does. All the while, your body is getting tricked into thinking that it's inhaling oxygen because there's no carbon dioxide building up. This causes the user to get hypoxic, which is basically another word for painless brain suffocation. Essentially, duster
Yeah.
makes you suffocate without your brain sending you into fight or flight mode, which often causes euphoria as a byproduct. This might sound cool or fun until you realize that every time you get high, you're giving yourself insane amounts of brain damage. This is
I mean, isn't it like that with every drug?
because your brain can only bear around 2 to 5 minutes of hypoxia before your brain cells die permanently. To
I thought, okay, I know it is about 7 minutes before you get brain damage when your heart stops pumping blood or you have a heart attack.
make things even worse, usually duster abusers will use this stuff for hours on end or until they pass out. So instead of just
Is this like this one, that one, how is it called? I'm not sure how is it called, but this uh, a cream wipe or for baristas bottle of not CO2 but something like that people used to abuse, and they had to put restrictions on them so people can't buy them and just inhale them all the time. I think that was in 2020, 2022 maybe, something like that. It was popular on TikTok.
minutes of killing their brain cells, they're
Also a very stupid trend.
doing it for hours a day. According to numerous anecdotal sources I've seen across online, this is one of the hardest drugs in the world to quit. I know this sounds ridiculous, but this is a reoccurring theme on this list. For example, in a post titled My Story of Air Duster Addiction, one user on Reddit wrote about how addictive this stuff can really be. In this post, he writes about the first time he tried it. Quote, "One blast and I was done for. I felt like I needed to feel this way for the rest of my life. I cannot describe the euphoria." Then
So is it like gasoline when you inhale gasoline fumes?
according to his story, he went to rehab, but immediately after he got out, he relapsed, writing, "I got a job that I lost, but I received a paycheck for around $200 and literally went on a ridiculous binge on Duster in my car in the Walmart parking lot. I
Um, damn, that's bad.
easily huffed over 50 cans in a 48-hour period. I
What the hell? He for sure got some brain damage after that.
seriously couldn't stop." He ends the story with saying, quote, "This stuff will make a mess of you and will take you down faster than any hard drugs out there. This is not some kiddie drug. Like I've said, I've tried everything, and nothing has compared to the insane rush of euphoria you get from Duster. If
Um, just to be clear, don't try this at home. Uh, I feel like I shouldn't have said that because it's obvious, but it's sure to make sure.
you use Duster, even short lengths of abuse can cause permanent brain damage, serious memory problems, seizures, loss of IQ, a loss of one's ability to focus, confusion, a permanent loss of coordination, permanent slurred speech, and death. With that
Don't say. I mean, I think that should be obvious to everyone. I mean, okay, maybe you should do research before you try anything stupid.
being said, the biggest reason to not use Duster is the fact that Walmart, of all things, would become your new drug dealer, which might
Oh, okay, that sounds real stupid.
might be one of the lamest ways to die of all time. On a big forum called Do You Know Anyone Who Permanently Fried Their Brain from Drugs? To nobody's surprise, Duster and inhalants in general was the most commonly mentioned drug in the replies. And that's because most drugs don't kill your brain matter. Many of them will change your brain's chemistry, but in most cases, your brain can make a full recovery over a long enough period of time. But this
Yeah, but I don't think it can recover from literal brain damage and that much of
This
it.
is not the case with Duster. In response to this question, one person in this thread wrote, I worked at a movie theater, had a coworker who was above average intelligence. He got into inhaling air cans. After 3 months, he was pretty much the dumbest person I ever knew. He
Um, okay.
didn't make much sense and he thought everything was so funny. Another user wrote
Hmm. Okay, that's sad.
about their Duster experience, and I think it's safe to say that this stuff is definitely no joke. According to the poster, they, quote, probably inhaled dust off 3 to 10 times a day for 2 years. Then they talk
Oh.
about when they finally quit it. Quote, by the time I stopped, I could not understand language much. I couldn't understand the concept of family or why anything worked how it was supposed to work. Sometimes I read and words suddenly looked like foreign shapes to me, and I can't decode them in my head. I'm
Yeah, that can happen after a long time of drug abuse
lucky I'm not like that to this day.
or a long time of sleep deprivation. Like if you sleep only for 4 hours for 5 years, you would be very fried. I mean, I didn't get much sleep in a year, and I already have difficulties writing, like missing letters or adding extra letters. So, yeah, and my memory is very bad, so get your sleep and don't inhale anything that isn't there, please. Except you got asthma medication prescribed. That would be something you want to inhale during an asthma attack.
Yeah. Definitely don't take this drug if you value your life. All in all, I'd wager even the most hardcore drug nerds out there haven't heard of at least one of the chemicals I mentioned on this list. But if not, don't worry, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. To summarize, some key takeaways are, don't use 5-MeO-DMT unless you want to buy a 2-hour timeshare in the shadow realm. If the weird guy from high school who took way too much interest in organic chemistry tells you he has some super salvia, don't take
Yeah, I think the super and salvia is enough for you to know. Nah.
it. If a smelly looking guy with a blank stare starts eyeballing the air duster in your shopping cart at Walmart, don't give it to him. Don't ever take black market MDMA at a rave because it might cause an endless depression. And don't listen to anyone that says using bath salts is a good idea. And please, for the love of God,
Yeah.
don't hit someone else's bath salts vape, especially if it feels sticky. Source? Trust me, bro. These videos
Uh, I think you gotta trust him on this one.
are a product of me venturing down hundreds of rabbit holes on the crazy
Yeah, it was Galaxy Gas. That was the one that was popular in, I think, 2022.
drug forums and websites I could find. EA3167.
Okay, I haven't heard of this either. Damn.
No, not EA Sports. It's in the game. EA3167. Close though. What happens when you create some type of mad scientist coalition of some of the best chemical engineers and scientists in the world, paired with billions of dollars in backing from the United
I don't think anything good. Alcohol doesn't sound so bad anymore. Yeah, now you realize why nicotine and alcohol are usually allowed, and why weed has been decriminalized in Germany, or it's legal if you're in a club or get it from a doctor, because there is much more worse things out there that can't be made legal because it would fry everyone's brains.
States military budget? Well, you get a chemical weapon that's so brutal even Darth Sidious would be impressed. This wartime designer drug, and I'm not even exaggerating, might be the most extreme non-lethal drug I have ever heard of. In all honesty, this atrocity of a chemical is so ungodly and just plain eerie that it's inconceivable to me why this has even been created in the first place. Like, I can't even understand who would bother imagining such an unnecessary extreme compound to begin with. First, let's begin with some context. EA3167 is what would be known as a deliriant.
Okay. Okay, so it's like Benadryl in high doses. So I can imagine if you take it, you can see shadow people, bugs swarming at you, spiders disappearing and then reappearing again, uh, believing things that believing you see things that aren't there. So yeah, not a real great time.
If you've ever seen a YouTube video on what it's like to take too much Benadryl, such as seeing shadow people and spiders everywhere, forgetting
Yeah. Uh, not very proud to say that I did take too much Benadryl one time when I tried to sleep because I couldn't sleep, and then I saw a lot of spiders and had to sleep with spiders because I knew it was the effect of the drug, so I just ignored it. But it was a very bad time.
everyone you know and not remembering how to read anymore, having hallucinations that you can't differentiate from real life, and
Yeah,
sometimes forgetting language entirely. The effects of these large Benadryl doses happen because it's a deliriant drug. And
yeah. I mean, don't do Benadryl. I mean, if you can't sleep, it's all right for short amounts of time, like that. I would say a week maximum. If you can't sleep, go to a doctor. They can prescribe you something that really works, and not something that would fry your brain.
in general, Benadryl is effective at treating allergies, fever, and flu-like symptoms. But
Yeah, it's also useful for nausea. If you have motion sickness, then you can use it when you have motion sickness.
as many of you know, in high doses, Benadryl starts to get super unpleasant, to put it mildly. This is because in high doses, Benadryl is what they call an anticholinergic.
Yeah, it acts on your uh, acetylcholine receptors, which are used for, I think, memory and making new memories, and yeah, basically remembering stuff.
Or, in non-nerd terms, it makes your memory about 80 times worse than Joe Biden's. Right.
Yeah, that's accurate.
But why is Benadryl anticholinergic? Well, because it's old. Benadryl was released for prescription in 1946, which means that Benadryl is turning 78 in 2024. I'm guessing when scientists discovered it, they were too caught up with all of the stuff that it cured to think about the fact that it crossed the blood-brain barrier to begin
Yeah, you don't want to take something that crosses blood-brain barrier very often, except it is prescribed.
with. They were probably like, why does that matter? It's not like anybody over the age of 8 is going to take a bunch of allergy pills to get high off of. Actually, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, if you put Benadryl in an over-the-counter medicine and it can make you go high, then yeah, people are going to use it for that. It's also with cough syrup that has DMX, I think. It's also a substance that can make you go high, and people do abuse it. And it's not that they use it for cough; they use it to get high. So it's not smart to put an an psychoactive substance in a over-the-counter medicine.
But like I said, old antihistamines such as Benadryl and other designer deliriants like EA3167 happen to cross the blood-brain barrier, which blocks your brain's ability to use acetylcholine, which is really bad. That's because acetylcholine helps regulate things like sleep, wakefulness, memory, and focus. So
Yeah,
basically, getting exposed makes you feel like you're literally going insane. And from everybody else's perspective, you just look like an idiot. You'll try to walk into doors that aren't there, talk to invisible people that aren't even around you, run from invisible spiders and shadow people, and most likely try to use your computer, forget your password, and get so pissed off that you punch the imaginary spider on your screen.
yeah, that's accurate.
However, let me be clear, Benadryl is not fun to abuse. Most people that try to use it in high doses recreationally end up being traumatized at some point, and long-term abuse can lead to early dementia. If you don't
Yeah,
believe me, watch a couple Benadryl trip reports on YouTube and come to your own conclusion. Now that we have a better understanding, let's talk about EA3167, the drug in question for this list. In the 1960s, the US government had a new goal, and that was to make bioweapons that didn't necessarily kill people, but incapacitated them for days. This program was known as the
Okay.
US Military Chemical Weapons Program.
I mean, it's better than killing them, but making them go insane isn't really a better option. I mean, after the war, they wouldn't be dead, but they would be really mentally impaired.
And one interesting result of this program was a contract with Edgewood Arsenal, who eventually developed the psychological war
Well, it's not a game. At least those people are still alive, or would be alive. I hope.
crime of a drug. EA316 has the exact same effects as 3QNB, but it lasts way longer. And unlike 3QNB, which was just accidentally discovered, EA3167 was purposely developed and designed to be terrifying. In both of these drugs, the effect is simple. It incapacitates your brain's ability to use acetylcholine, which, like I said earlier, is essential for memory and not going insane. If
Yeah.
somebody wants to get you to do this stuff, they probably will. It's a white, crystalline, odorless powder, completely soluble in most liquids, including water, and has
Oh, hell no. Okay. Let's hope no one goes rogue and becomes a supervillain, because if they watch this video, that would be very bad for all of us.
delayed symptoms several hours after contact. It also
I mean, putting this in a city's water tank would be a pure evil. I'm not giving anyone ideas, I'm just stating the fact
has a half-life
that it would be very bad.
of 3 to 4 weeks in moist air, which means that your enemy could spike your food with it and wait weeks until you eat it. It also lasts a really long time in soil. If you happen to get drugged with this stuff, you're
Oh.
basically going to lose your mind.
Okay. Yeah, this is some villain type shit.
According to official sources, common symptoms include both, quote, psychological and physiological effects, with the most incapacitating effect being the state of delirium characterized by cognitive dysfunction, hallucinations, and the inability to perform basic tasks.
Yeah.
What's crazy about 3QMB is that the US military designed a specific cluster bomb called the M44 generator cluster, which basically sent a bunch of flying gas canisters down on your enemy, creating a visible white cloud of doom. And if you got caught in it, you would become incapacitated anywhere from a couple hours to a couple of days. But
Ooh. Oh. Well, that doesn't sound very great. And also, acetylcholine is also important for you to use your muscles. It helps your brain tell your muscles, your body, what to do. And if you don't have it, well, there will be no movement, I think. But don't take me for a word. I'm not sure about that fact.
that was just phase 1 of this drug. The final supervillain form of this drug, EA3167, was basically what you would call super Benadryl, because if Benadryl turns you into a vegetable, this stuff turns you into bedrock.
Oh, no.
Ingesting a tiny amount will give you a bad Benadryl-like trip, but only requires 0.2 milligrams for an average
That's 200 micrograms. What the hell?
weight person, and it lasts anywhere from 5 to 10 days, with many users saying they needed 20 days to fully recover. So basically, it's akin to a 10 to 20 day long Benadryl overdose. Or in other words, it's actually like going clinically insane for at least 10 days.
But at least you will be free from work. I mean, you gotta get a doctor's note for this. I mean, you can't work like this. But if you are taking it willingly, I think you have some more psychological problems or neurological problems. Because if you read this about that drug, which isn't popular at all, and you decide, yeah, I think I should spend my 2 weeks like this, then you are not really good in your head.
Not remembering how to speak, how to walk, how to read, what the layout of your house was, or anything else really. Considering military leaders were planning on drugging enemies with the stuff from a handshake, if you were incapacitated by EA3167, you would probably believe that you had permanently lost your mind. And the worst part is, you would have no idea what was wrong with you. Also, because acetylcholine is the most important neurotransmitter for REM sleep, your brain would get very confused and no longer be able to tell the difference between reality and dream. In
Yeah.
fact, this is
Yeah. That I have also experienced that on that time I took too much because I tried to sleep. Yeah, I would just wake up, look at my phone, see it's some time that doesn't make sense, forget to remember it, go back to sleep, then look at the phone again, having completely different time that doesn't exist. Like it's 70 and 20 minutes. Like hours don't go up to 70, but you don't realize that. Then you go to sleep, look at the phone again, and then you loop like that, and you don't know if it is a dream or reality until you wake up next day and realize, oh, that was very fucked up. So yeah, Benadryl is a big no-no if you take more than like 2 pills. So yeah, don't attempt this at home.
This is why your hallucinations are so strong on anticholinergic drugs. They simply put your brain into a REM-like sleep state while you're still awake. So what you see and what's actually real become indistinguishable in the worst ways possible.
Yeah,
And because of this, in my opinion, that's what makes this one of the cruelest chemical warfare drugs ever invented. But wait, it gets worse. Because for some cruel reason, the US military thought it was a bright idea to test this drug on human subjects. And
oh no.
sadly, some people simply never recovered from the terror of losing their ever-loving mind for 10
I mean, I understand that because living without your mind for even 1 hour would be a crazy, terrifying, traumatizing.
20 days. For example, one source states, quote, even 6 months after exposure, a few subjects demonstrated significant increases in the scores of depression, hysteria, schizophrenia, and mania scales. In other words, if you got drugged with this stuff, it's a pretty good chance that you'll never be the same. And even worse is you might permanently lose your mind. Okay, really quickly,
Yeah.
I actually wanted to break the fourth wall. I know you guys enjoy watching these videos, so I wanted to kind of take you behind the scenes and show you quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this is very fun and entertaining.
I felt like the best way to show you is by exposing one of the biggest tools that's helped me, and that tool is Notion, which just so happens to be the sponsor of this video. And in this segment, I want to quickly show you some of my favorite parts about Notion and also some of their new and
Trust me, bro, leaks. Plan for world domination. Okay.
improved features. On Notion, you can create any workspace you want, and as you can see, I've lovingly named mine the Trust Me Broshin Notion. On Notion, you have a lot of options, but what I want to show you quickly is my exact tools. One of the best things about Notion is that it's extremely easy to use, and they do a really good job of teaching you how to use it, kind of like a video game tutorial. Now,
Okay. That's an interesting way to make a tutorial that people would actually look at and not just press next, 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 done.
full transparency, this is a dummy account that I quickly made for this segment. I do use Notion, but I don't want to fully expose my back end, if you catch my drift.
Oh, what are you searching? What are you looking up on there?
For starters, Notion is an extremely easy tool to track your monthly budget. Imagine all of the tools available in other software suites online in one place in an easy to use and nice to look at format. That's basically Notion. This may look like a simple spreadsheet, but trust me when there's so much more that you can do with it specifically. Another thing that I love to do is track my to-do list. Here, let me add a few tasks and I'll show you exactly how this could work. So for example, now that we actually have a few assignments in here, we can actually track our exact progress on what we're working on. For example, my English assignment, I finished it. Learning Japanese, that's something I'm doing right now. And Become 3D, I haven't started that, and sadly, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do that. But the best part is each of these tasks you can actually click on and add any comments you want, add more details, and even assign it to other people if you are sharing a project with potentially classmates or friends of yours. And I do have a couple other pages, but let's not get into those. What I do want to get into though is the
Okay.
amazing amount of templates that are right there. If you feel overwhelmed with making your own template, you don't have to. If you go to the template workshop, there are so many free, great themes available for almost any use case. And as you can see, they have templates for work, life, and school. So no matter what your biggest priority in life
Yeah, this is a long
life
promotion.
is right now, they've got you covered. But one thing I want to touch on that is the newest innovation when it comes to Notion is this squiggly little guy right here, Notion AI. It is crazy
Of course, everything is AI today.
how much this little guy can do. Just look at him. Look at his little faces. And besides Notion being one of the best places to actually hold your knowledge base, basically making it a second brain, their new AI tools actually allow you to create brand new documents from scratch. For example, let's have it make me a flowchart. Like, look at this. I just asked it to make me a flowchart about how to be good at YouTube. And honestly, this isn't a bad place, which is great. You guys are using organization. Thank you, Notion, for sponsoring this video. Galantamine.
Yeah.
This drug is deep.
Antamine? I heard about that one. That's the one for lucid dreaming. It's also one that acts on acetylcholine and makes your dreams more vivid and easier to remember, I think. If that's the one I think it is.
On the drug iceberg, but not because of how obscure it is. In fact, some people already know about galantamine because it is often used to treat Alzheimer's. But
And Alzheimer's too, yeah. That's a pill for better memory.
what not everybody knows is what niche internet communities use it for, which I'll be getting into. But first, let's talk about how galantamine works. Remember the chemical
Yeah, inhibits the reuptake or degradation of acetylcholine, so it stays for a longer time in your brain, I think.
weapon we were just talking about? Well, this chemical is actually the exact opposite. Galantamine
Yeah, it makes it more available in your brain, so it's easier to remember stuff on it. Like, for example, your dreams, for people who use it for lucid dreaming.
is what you would call a cholinergic drug, which basically means that it increases acetylcholine in your brain, which in turn improves your memory, wakefulness, and focus. So unlike
Yeah.
anticholinergics, it makes you the opposite of a vegetable. So, a fruit? This is really helpful for people with Alzheimer's, but it also has another even crazier use. Like I mentioned earlier, acetylcholine is a super important neurotransmitter for REM sleep. Well, because of the effects these drugs have on your cholinergic system, Benadryl makes you asleep when you're awake. And by asleep, I mean a waking nightmare. But cholinergic drugs like galantamine make you awake when you're asleep. And
Yeah.
because of this quality, people on the internet have figured out that if you go to sleep and then set an alarm 4 to 6 hours after you fall asleep to catch yourself in the middle of a REM cycle, take 4 to 8 milligrams of galantamine, and then quickly go back to sleep before the galantamine kicks in,
You will be having a dream and you will be aware that you are in a dream because you are awake while your body is asleep.
the galantamine will take effect on your brain while you're in the dream, which will give you about a 50% higher chance of lucid dreaming. And if you don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's basically realizing that you're in a dream and pretty much doing whatever you want, like
Yep.
flying, gaining superpowers, or even walking around the corner and hoping that your brain will make your celebrity crush appear. And considering it makes your
I think people are doing one specific thing.
memory and focus better, most people that have tried this method for lucid dreaming say that the galantamine makes their dreams feel like they're dreaming in 4K. Basically, used during the daytime, galantamine is a mild limitless pill, and used during the nighttime, it's like the red pill from the Matrix.
Yeah.
Interestingly, this chemical being used for lucid dreaming has also been studied, and one study called, quote, pre-sleep treatment with galantamine stimulates lucid dreaming, concludes that, quote, the percentage of participants who reported a lucid dream was significantly increased for both 4 milligrams and 8 milligram doses of galantamine. But this isn't really deep enough for a video titled 5 Crazy Drugs You've Never Heard of. So I want to go a level deeper. There are actually people who take specifically designed stacks of nootropics, which are
Yeah, I know about nootropics and use many of them for, like, let's say, exams, because there is a lot of things you have to remember, and there is no motivation to remember them because they are boring to learn. So you just take a few nootropics, look at the spreadsheet you need to remember, go to sleep, and you know everything next day.
basically just legal
That's basically how it works for me. But still, they are mostly research chemicals and shouldn't be used on humans.
supplements that affect your brain's functionality in order to get the clearest, most vivid, and long-lasting dreams imaginable. I honestly don't know what to call these people, because they're not exactly psychonauts, but at the same time, they're still using drugs to explore the deepest depths of their subconscious. So I guess they're somewhere in between. According to some of these shaman-like dream gurus who I've talked to, apparently one of the wildest activities to do in a lucid dream isn't any of the crazy stuff you would imagine, like fighting your mortal enemy with superpowers, shape-shifting, or flying. Apparently, it's just meditating. Now, I know this sounds crazy, but these people have told me that the most fascinating thing to do in a dream once you realize that you're dreaming is to just stop and observe it. They look at the people passing by, they read a newspaper, and they listen to the random characters in their dreams having in-depth conversation. According to them,
I mean, they are all part of your subconscious mind because you don't generate dreams consciously. So everything you hear in a dream is something you have thought at some point or think daily without realizing it.
the state of awareness that they are in during these lucid dreams is more than the awareness they experience in their waking life. Colors are bright and vivid, like how they used to look when we were kids. And every other
Hmm.
sense, such as smell, touch, and taste, is in HD. Some people theorize that this is because the brain experiences different brain waves or states of consciousness in different phases of sleep. For example,
Yeah.
REM sleep is the state in which you dream. So basically, being aware in a dream is different from being aware in real life, because once you become aware in your dream, your mind is already at a super low state of consciousness, which would typically
Hmm.
take years of practice to achieve regularly. In fact, many cultures throughout history have practiced this dream enhancement with various substances long before galantamine was ever invented. For example, Tibetan monks
I mean, you could also use Huperzine A, which is in some trees, I think, some bark.
have been practicing dream yoga as a meditation technique for hundreds of years. Similarly, African tribes have used something called the African dream route to induce lucid dreams as well. Finally, one user on a popular lucid dreaming forum wrote about what it was like to use galantamine, in which he states, quote, "I set my alarm for 6 hours after I was going to wake up when I went to sleep. When I woke up, I took 4 milligrams of galantamine pills and 2 choline pills, downed some water, and went right back to sleep. After some time of tossing and turning, I decided to fall asleep on my stomach, like I usually do. And just as I was falling asleep, I suddenly felt pressure on my body, like someone put a very heavy blanket over me. I'm pretty sure
Yeah, that's your muscles paralyzing.
this was sleep paralysis. Usually at this point,
Yeah, sleep paralysis when you can't move.
I have a hard time staying awake. But because the galantamine kicked in just in time, I felt vibrant and awake even though my body was now asleep. I stayed in my bed, simply observing this feeling. And then, in an instant, I suddenly realized my body had drifted out of my real-life body. This is probably the
Yeah.
coolest sensation I've ever experienced. Suddenly, anything I imagined was perfectly visible, as if I were looking at a 3D TV screen. Then, I imagined my fingers touching a familiar texture, and suddenly I was looking down and my hands were touching the object I had just imagined, and an expansive town constructed itself around me. Somehow, everything I could see, hear, smell, and touch was more vivid than I remembered real life to be.
It's like watching a game or movie being rendered in real time, I guess.
And upon my first attempt of flying, I was flying around this new city. I specifically remember a point where I was close to a cloud, looking down at the city, and I was just staring in disbelief at how realistic and accurate my dream was looking and feeling. I could feel the wind from flying, and everything I touched had an accurate texture. What's more is that any music I imagined synthesized right in my dream. For a moment, I felt like Hans Zimmer, orchestrating an entire original composition that sounded even better and more out of this world than anything I've ever heard in my life. What
Okay. I don't know if this is a promotion ad or this is just something you shouldn't try.
felt like 2 hours from me exploring the city went by, and at a certain time I began to get worried. It felt like my brain had notified me that I should have woken up by now. But I remembered that the galantamine was probably causing a dream lasting longer than it would
Yeah.
naturally. Shortly after this, I promptly woke up and I looked at my clock and only 30 minutes have gone by. That was the longest dream I've ever had. Because I wanted to mix things up, this
30 minutes is a lot for REM sleep. Some people get only 30 minutes a night.
is one of the only drugs on the list that isn't necessarily an instant death and horror drug. It's a bit different. But with that being said, I do not in any way, shape, or form condone using all
Bro, you are contradicting yourself right now.
Alzheimer's drugs recreationally. But the science and story behind it is interesting. Flubromazolam. For the sake of
I heard about that one, but I'm not sure what it is.
simplicity, we'll just call this drug Flubro. This drug falls under a category of drugs known as triazolobenzodiazepines, which is
Oh, benzodiazepine,
pretty
yeah.
much just a fancy word for research chemical benzos. And at that, it's one of the strongest benzodiazepines in the world. What's crazy is that it has a half-life of 50 to 20 hours, which means that if someone using this
Ooh, that's a lot.
drug takes even a tiny bit too much, they're pretty much guaranteed to spend the next day or two blacked out. And I'm not talking
Okay, but I mean, you need hydration and food.
about blacked out as in sleepwalking around like a confused Xanfi not remembering anything you did yesterday. I'm talking about going into a straight up hibernation for 48 hours. In fact, now that I think about it, a good way to put this drug would be Xanax on steroids. Research chemicals are so strong that most of the time, even the most seasoned research chemical enthusiasts steer far away from this stuff. To give
I mean, why would you take it even? I mean, it's not something you take because you need it. I mean, it's something else if you take like the one before, I think glutamine, or which ones do I know? Nupept or Aniretstam or let's say a Selang, a Semax. Those are for enhancing memory. They have a use. This Flubro, yeah, that one doesn't really have any function except making you black out.
give you some perspective on how crazy this drug is, I want to talk about how extreme regular benzos are. One good example of this is a Joe Rogan episode where Jordan Peterson explains how severe his benzo addiction was. He recounts how his doctor prescribed him Xanax in 2019 because he couldn't sleep. He started taking them without thinking too much about it. Then, in 2022, he attempted to get off of them for the first time, which caused him neurological damage and gave him severe withdrawals. In
Yeah, withdrawals are real.
this episode, Joe Rogan also talks about how a doctor told him that Xanax was one of the hardest drugs to get off of, and how
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's harder than let's say meth or heroin, but sure.
it can turn an everyday person into a severely dependent addict in a matter of weeks. Joe also goes on to tell him about
That's true.
another doctor that told him that there are only 2 drugs that can kill you if you get off of them, those being alcohol and benzodiazepines. It's
Yeah,
crazy to think that these drugs can literally kill you if you stop taking.
and they are prescribable. Other ones on this list weren't even going to kill you, or some of them, not all of them. But yeah, the 2 that can and will kill you if you use them badly or abuse them are legal to prescribe or even buy in a supermarket.
Regardless, after
Crazy.
Dr. Peterson undertook months of unsuccessful treatment in American hospitals in an attempt to slowly wean himself off the drug, he finally had to go to a hospital in Russia and undergo a medically induced coma for 8 days just to deal with the withdrawals of Xanax. When
Yeah, that's real. When you have a bad withdrawals, so you are put to coma, so your body can process it while you are not vividly experiencing the experience. You are just blacked out for the whole experience.
talking about Xanax withdrawal, Peterson says trying to get off of them was the lowest point in his life. So, just to put this all into perspective, let me present you with one user I found on a popular Swedish drug forum who talks about how Flubro withdrawal is at least 10 times worse than Xanax. He states that, quote, in just 1 week on these, at 1 tablet a day, I got the strongest withdrawals imaginable. If you thought Xanax was bad, Flubro is at least 10 times worse. So,
Oh,
if you think quitting nicotine is hard, imagine a withdrawal that
quitting nicotine isn't that hard. Just buy a shit ton of mints and pop a handful of mints every half an hour or like 2 every 2 minutes and you'll be just fine.
It's 10 times worse than one that required an 8-day coma to escape from. Users on this forum also go on to describe the withdrawals in more detail. Quote, when you're withdrawing from Flubro, you can just forget about sleep if you don't have any other strong medicines. I had to get more Flubro again after being sleepless for 3 nights. The worst part was my body and mind felt exhausted,
Oh.
like I wanted to sleep, but it just felt like something was wrong, like there was something preventing me from falling asleep. This user then
Yeah, that's also how people describe afterglow from LSD. You are tired and exhausted from the experience, but you just can't fall asleep. It's still active. It's keeping you awake. So yeah, but this one works a bit differently. I think this one raises GABA so much, which is a neurotransmitter that yeah relaxes you and puts you to sleep. So when you need to sleep again, the receptors are upregulated or downregulated. I think downregulated. So it isn't effective at normal doses the brain produces. So it's become resistant to its own GABA. So when you want to go to sleep, nothing happens. You need something to induce sleep, like let's say benzo or Benadryl, which will just make the addiction worse.
states, quote, I've been on benzos for 15 years, but 1 week of Flubro is literally costing me my life. This substance is absolutely not to be played with. Then
Yeah.
another user commented, quote, I've been on benzos for 10 years. I got such an extreme withdrawal from these that I was borderline psychotic. The withdrawals were so bad that ever since that withdrawal, I decided to stop taking benzos forever, and I am currently tapering off them now.
Yeah, I also had them for insomnia for a week, I think, and my memory was so bad, and I was so sleepy all the time. I don't want to use them ever again. I'll I will personally better take Benadryl or melatonin or a cup of tea before sleep or hot milk, but benzos never again.
We all know Xanax addiction can make you spend months of your life essentially blacked out, not remembering anything. But because of Flubro's ridiculously long half-life, month-long blackouts on this drug are on a completely different level. To demonstrate what I mean, on a benzo drug forum, one user states, quote, Flubro blacked me out for literally months at a time. As a user, you know all of the consequences that come with benzos, getting fired, crashing your car, and spending money that you don't have. Now, crank that up exponentially, and you know the withdrawals you get? Those get cranked up too. I tried to withdraw at home, and I endured 2 weeks of wasting away before my mind snapped and I went into a full-blown psychosis and woke up in detox. I am not messing around
Yeah.
with you when I say that this will ruin your life. And I'm not your mother, so I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm just telling you what's going to happen. It's turning yourself into an evil zombie and pain will fall.
I'm not AI. Yeah, I know that. AI viewers. Yeah, you are not an AI viewer, so uh, don't concern yourself with this message. But I can't really ban it, I think. Can I ban him? Ban. Done. He's banned.
So yeah, benzos alone are scary enough, but these research benzos are on a different level of terrifying. MPTP. In my last
MPTP. I didn't hear of that one. Interesting.
video, we talked about 4-CMA, which infamously kills your serotonin neurons. Well, in
Yeah.
this video, we're going to talk about another neurotoxic drug that's possibly worse, MPTP. Like many of the chemicals on this list, this is a research chemical, which means that it was developed in a lab and doesn't have enough historic testing and research to be considered reliable or safe. What's interesting about MPTP is that it's usually created as an accidental byproduct when trying to synthesize another research chemical known as MPPP. In 1976, a 23-year-old chemistry graduate named Barry Kidston was doing just that. Because MPPP gave similar effects to morphine, Kidston was producing it in a lab for personal consumption. What nobody knew at the time,
Bro. That's not what you do when you get an organic chemistry degree.
however, was that when you synthesize MPPP, it comes with the risk of being contaminated by MPTP as a byproduct. Interestingly, MPTP isn't neurotoxic on its own, but it is the chemical precursor to MPP+. Once MPTP enters your blood-brain barrier, your brain turns it into MPP+, which is a potent neurotoxin that is guaranteed to kill your dopamine neurons.
Oh. Good night, show, yeah? If that's how you say it. Have a great night. Good night.
Permanently. So, without knowing any of this, Barry Kidston synthesized his MPPP in a lab, and when he was ready, he injected it into himself. Sources say that
Oh, he injected it? That's going to be very bad.
within 3 days, Barry had developed Parkinson's. He was treated with
Shoo. Going straight to Parkinson's? That's a bit too much.
another dopamine precursor known as L-Dopa, but unfortunately he died from a cocaine overdose just a year later.
Bruh. He knew what he was doing when he got that chemistry degree.
Some people speculate that Kidston might have been taking cocaine to self-medicate his Parkinson's. What's scary is this isn't the only case of this happening. For example, in 1983, quote, 4 people in Santa Clara County, California, United States were diagnosed with Parkinson's after having used MPPP contaminated with MPTP. And
Damn. Okay.
as many as 120 more were reported to have been diagnosed with Parkinson's symptoms. All in all, this is a terrible drug, and just like 4-CMA, it was never really intended to be taken, but it still ended up being accidentally consumed anyway. Honestly, I can't decide whether destroying your dopamine-producing neurons or your serotonin-producing neurons is worse, but either
How about taking both of those drugs and then not being able to function at all? So like let's hope the World War III doesn't happen, because this is some powerful shit that would definitely make you not sane anymore if used in a war.
Way, taking MPPP is a horrible idea considering the risk that it will turn into MPTP, and from that will almost guarantee you get Parkinson's. Not many drugs that I've found have such strong, lifelong effects. I don't think I need to go into much more detail about what makes this chemical absolutely terrifying. No matter what you do, never even think about touching 4-CMA or MPTP or
Or mixing them together.
MPPP or any research chemical or anything at all. Don't even drink
Um,
water. At this point, I'm basically
okay.
terrified of everything because these drugs are insane. But we still have one more, and it's the craziest I've touched on by far. DPT.
Okay, I heard of DPT, but I don't know what it is exactly.
DPT is a drug that is generally just a bad deal to agree to. If you happen to have a good trip, most trip reports will just say it will be alright. But if you happen to have a
Okay, just alright. I don't think that's a great deal.
bad trip, which is more of a rule than an exception with this chemical, most people agree that it's the worst psychedelic experience they've ever had. In the
Okay.
last drug video, part 1, I said that 5-MeO-DMT was basically DMT's mysterious grandfather. And that's
Yeah.
true. But what I didn't tell you is that 5-MeO-DMT was just scratching the surface of DMT analogs. And this form of DMT, DPT, is more akin to the ghost that haunts DMT's mysterious grandfather.
Oh, we are getting family lore here.
This is the next level down the DMT iceberg that not everyone knows about. Now, let's make one thing clear. DPT is not natural. It has never been found in any toad venom, any tree bark, or anywhere in the known universe thus far. And in my opinion, God was probably facepalming hard when he saw humans first make this stuff. That's
Yeah, I would say that about most of the substances on this video.
probably because if you take a high enough dose, your trip can last up to 12 hours. You see, when you make
Okay, that's bad. I mean, other ones were okay. I mean, 2 hours, that's manageable. But 12 hours of nightmares in real life, that would be enough to push you over the edge and make you go insane.
a psychedelic drug in a lab and it's nowhere to be found in nature, all of those hippie arguments of, it's just a plant, bro, made by the guy who looks like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo wearing a weed-scented tie-dye carpet he bought at the Dollar General, just goes out the window. Another interesting fact about this cursed drug is that an entire cult was created around it. I'm serious.
Bruh. What?
If we're being honest, you know the drug is insane when people think this drug is God. And I'm not joking, that's literally
I mean, that's what they say about DMT oftentimes.
what happened. This cult is called the Temple of the True Inner Light, and the actual temple is unsurprisingly based in New York City. And if you
Okay.
think this sounds like some type of crazy science fiction plot, you wouldn't be wrong. It's weird because everyone talks about Scientology in LA, but somehow an NYC cult temple that worships a synthesized research chemical variant of DMT that can't even be found in nature just slips under the radar. Anyways, on their website, which is kind of hard to find, they go into detail about what they actually believe. Quote, "It is our belief that the origin of religion and spiritual awakening is the ingestion of psychedelics."
I mean, I also believe that, because, I mean, before any regulations, I can imagine people putting the hallucination inducing or psychedelic mushrooms into their stews, because they didn't know they were the mushrooms you shouldn't eat, or that were, I mean, plants you shouldn't eat, so they just put it in the stew, or it was contaminated, their water was contaminated by it, and they imagined things like Jesus or Buddha, or I don't know what religions exist, or Satan. I mean, it could really be just psychedelics, because, I mean, you were tripping balls. You could have seen anything and thought it was real, and you could report about it. But we can't confirm if that really happened, or it's just a theory. But so for now, it's just hypothesis or just a theory that can't be proven. But it's not just that far stretched that someone just took a a big dose of psychedelics without knowing it and made a religion out of the hallucinations they had.
In other words, the original followers of every true religion, such as Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, believed that psychedelics are the embodiment of God.
Okay, that's a bit much now. I don't believe in that.
This was and is the God of the ancient prophets and messengers, and this is the light spoken of in scriptures and sacred texts.
Okay, now they are going straight off the rails.
What's even crazier is that they smoke DPT in oil form, and they even have
Hmm.
their own religious text referring to their god as oil. For example, on their website, they have one of their own scriptures that says, quote, "I am writing to you about those who would deceive you, but the oil you received from him remains within you, and you really need no teaching from anyone."
Uh, so we are worshipping oil now. Okay, that just happened. I'm sorry about that.
Simply remain in him. For
Bro,
this oil teaches
no.
you about everything, and is
No.
true,
Okay.
and is no lie. Remain in him, as his oil has taught you to do. Needless to say, I wonder if this cult would accept Joe Rogan into it. I know we've talked about Joe Rogan a lot, but here's Joe Rogan entering this cult for the first time.
Welcome, brother. We have awaited you. Jamie, pull up that video of that bear smoking DMT. Also, pull up a Trust Me Bro video, please.
And that's totally real and definitely happened. Another weird thing about the temple's website is that they just take passages from the Bible and then just kind of add stuff to it. For example, their website features, quote, 1 St. John's 2:26. But I don't really know what saint is supposed to mean in this instance. Also, what their website says is notably different from the original scripture, with the
Yeah, I could imagine.
original scripture saying, "I am writing these things to you about those who are trying to lead you astray." And this website's version of the scripture is, quote, "Salvation does not come from the darkness. Alcohol, cocaine, morphine, dishonesty, violence. Our Eucharist is DPT, a very powerful angel of a host, closely related to psilocybin." In my
Yeah, I would need to read that lore.
opinion, the biggest problem with this cult's claims is that DPT doesn't even occur in nature, and it also fails to be molecularly similar to psilocybin like they claimed in that verse. Alright,
Yeah, they didn't really thought it through too much.
enough about the cult, which to me is one of the most insane parts about this drug, but what is the drug itself actually like? Well, the general consensus on the internet is that this drug is just, for lack of better words, eerie. And it's also one of the first drugs I've ever found that even experienced psychedelic users have been wary of. So, in other words, using this drug would feel exactly like how you would expect using a cult drug to feel like, with many users reporting dark spiritual experiences being associated with this chemical. For example, one Reddit post I found on the substance goes into detail about why it was the worst trip they ever had.
I mean, I could imagine why.
This Redditor started by saying, quote, "So the other day I broke out some DPT and took around 50 milligrams. I have plenty of psychedelic experience consisting of high doses of the following: DMT, LSD, mushrooms, MDA, DMX, 4-HOMET, and some other things I'm sure I've forgotten. But even my worst trips
I wonder why he has forgotten. Maybe because he took them.
don't even touch DPT. Nothing gets close to what I just experienced, and it was possibly the worst psychedelic experience I've ever had." He then goes on to say, quote, "This is the weirdest, eeriest, and strangest, most intense chemical I have ever ingested. At first, it felt pretty good, and the visuals were quite enjoyable. But about 15 minutes after dosing, something became very off. It felt as if something had entered my body and I was no longer in control whatsoever, but in a different way than DMT. I didn't
Okay. So maybe some kind of dissociation, which you can get on high doses of the DXM.
even feel that intoxicated, which was the weird and scary part. I just felt a complete loss of control." Then comes the craziest part, in my opinion. They go on to say, quote, "I had an extreme eerie feeling along with extreme disassociation and possibly even slight psychosis-like
Yeah, yeah. So I was right before.
symptoms. This feels like a direct pathway to communications with evil spirits."
Okay, now he goes off the rails too.
Many people who follow the philosophy of naturalism believe that designer drugs are a connection to evil spirits because they aren't naturally occurring, and thus weren't meant for human consumption.
Okay, that doesn't make sense, but still, yeah, you shouldn't take substances that are not designed for human consumption, no matter if they are naturally occurring or not naturally occurring.
I know this is a bit off topic, but I thought it was an interesting concept to keep in mind for this specifically. The Redditor goes on to say, quote, "The next night I also had extremely vivid, terrifying nightmares and sleep paralysis. During sleep paralysis, a tall, black entity had quite literally tormented me until I fell back into my dream. Then
Oh, and now this is something a bit more weird from psychological uh, view point of view, because a tall black entity doesn't really sound like a shadow people like on Benadryl or other things. It's a bit different.
continue to do so in my nightmare. I usually do not have experiences like this, and I also never have had sleep paralysis. And if you found that story creepy, the comments aren't any more comforting. With one
Hmm.
user commenting, quote, "Some people are sensitive to spiritual attacks. In this materialistic, spiritually closed-minded civilization we live in, everything is just reduced to chemicals, states of mind, or psychologicalized, or written off in another way. The
Um, yeah, that person is also a bit crazy.
spiritual world is just non-existent under that frame." And finally, one last claim I found about DPT was the following, quote, "I've been taking DPT and it makes me feel possessed in a way, almost
Someone call an exorcist.
like I'm the creepy dude in Hereditary. That sort of thing, I suppose. Just like I'm channeling something very intense that transcends humanity." To see. This drug
Okay, now we will continue in another video, because yeah, I am losing my attention span because I've been watching like YouTube for about 3 hours, and it's a bit much. So we will continue this video next time. So this will be part 1, and I will see you in the part 2. So until then, I hope you enjoyed, and goodbye.